Right, Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum to everyone who is watching and welcome. We are going to be talking to Urje, who was a part of the most recently graduated cohort of Seeking Wholeness Trauma Group Coaching Program. So, Urje, thank you so much for agreeing to do this video testimonial and to share your experience with the audience and really any woman who might be considering and thinking, is this a program that I want to invest in, or is this a program that can actually help me? So before we get into what the program did for you, I kind of want to ask you from that kind of first moment where you were considering the program and that first call we had, the discovery call where it's just me and you and we were getting a sense of your goals.
Yeah.
What was it that you were hoping to achieve from coaching?
Yeah, I was hoping to achieve basically a healing process of, looking into my childhood, identifying where these traumas are coming from. And then I also wanted to make sure that I am integrating it with Islamic teachings, because I feel like that's really important to me. You could have, different coachings in different areas, but if it's not integrated with Islamic, sometimes it might not make sense. So that's something that I was really looking forward to. And in the initial call, when we started talking, Hannah actually, said, let's go ahead and make the dua really quick. And that gave me so much comfort. And so I knew that was going to be for me once we had that initial call.
We got you that quick?
Yeah.
SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah. When you say that you were looking for something that was Islamically integrated or had that element of Islam in it, why did that even matter to you?
It mattered to me because Islam is a big part of my life, and without Islam, I wouldn't be who I am. And the teachings that are placed, in the Islamic teachings are, those guidance that we need to take in life, right? So without those guidances within, with integrating it within the practice, it really wouldn't make sense for me, because I could do certain things to go ahead and, help myself out. Like I could go do affirmations, whatever it might be. But then in the bigger picture, we're missing Allah, right? So it was important for me to also grow spiritually and then also heal as I go.
Yeah, and subhanAllah, I hear that from a lot of people, that when they're looking for support on their, whatever it is, a mental health journey or just a life planning journey, that they're very hesitant to work with someone who isn't Muslim. And that's not to say that someone who isn't Muslim can't be an incredible practitioner or help someone a lot, but it's to say that people are very, very cognizant that religious value element of the work that they're doing, if it's not there, then they'll have to find somewhere else that fills that gap. So Jazakallah khair for sharing that. As you were going through the coaching, right, what was changing for you, mind, body, and soul? Like, so you come into it, you're trying to figure out elements of your childhood trauma, you're seeing how it's affecting kind of your adult life. What is shifting throughout the coaching?
Yeah. So I never understood why, I do certain things. And I feel like that was also hindering me from my growth, right? There might be, a daily habit that I am partaking in that might stunt my growth, or even just could be a trauma response. And I wasn't really aware of that because I didn't pay attention. But, with each of the class sessions, we're learning something new in each session to be able to improve and to be able to put practices in place to be able to help us identify those things. So with that being said, I was able to kind of take a step back and look at it from a bigger picture and understand, the practices to put, and then also make sure that, I'm centering and understanding my relationship with Allah as well. So I've been consistently praying because, there's, practices that we put in place, such as, making sure we're doing the somatic practices that's helping us with healing with, our physical body, just identifying where each tensions are. And that kind of helps you, take a weight off your shoulders, if you want to think about it that way. So yeah, I would say that would be the major difference that I've seen, being able to identify, understand, self-aware, being in the present moment, and also making sure that I am, talking to my younger self and teaching myself as, reteaching myself like as a parent, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And that's helped me dramatically.
SubhanAllah. So prior to the coaching, without those practices, without that getting in touch with your self-awareness of where you're holding trauma in your body, without releasing that trauma, without reorganizing certain thought patterns or doing that subconscious healing,
Hmm.
where do you think you would be right now if you didn't learn those things?
I would say I will have like maybe like a redundant cycle of repeating the same bad habits, or
Mhm.
repeating things that might be, harming my growth. And also, I'm able to understand, certain triggers and certain things that might have come up, and I will understand it as, okay, well, this is a emotion that's not, a reality for me. Let me make sure I am keeping a check of that. But if I didn't take the class, I wouldn't have done that. I would have been repeating a redundant cycle, basically, and
Gotcha.
not really growing.
Yeah. And so people call that like the toxic cycle, where you just find yourself, you're triggered, you have a trauma response, it leads to its negative effect, and then you get triggered again and you have a trauma response, and it leads to a negative effect, and it just keeps going and going until you interrupt the cycle.
And then it feels like depression while you're in that cycle too. So yes.
Mhm. For sure. Yeah. You can fall into really bad depression. You can struggle with really bad anxiety. There's a lot of shame that ends up coming out of it. So that's actually that's a good segue. The feeling of shame, we call it toxic shame, right? Like it's the kind of shame where it's not rooted in something healthy. You're not feeling ashamed because you did something haram or that you did something wrong, but it's this constant weight on your shoulders of, I'm not good enough, or I'm never going to get out of that. How has the sense of shame changed for you?
Honestly, at first, I was struggling. I felt like I had a lot going on at the same time while I was taking the class. So I just felt like I wasn't making any progress. But you do have to actually take the time to work on it in order for you to see the results that you need. At first, I was definitely shaming myself for not staying consistent. And I just felt like I wasn't getting, the first week was like overwhelming for me because I had a lot of personal things that I had to take
Yeah.
care of. So with that being said, after that, I had to, take it seriously, and I say, you know what, I need to make sure that I work towards this healing process properly. And I think it definitely was making a great amount of progress as I went through it. At first, it was definitely hard for
Mhm.
me.
Gotcha. Gotcha. This is a weird question, but I think it'll help you, because a lot of times when people are considering the Seeking Wholeness program, they're just like, is it actually going to make a difference? Is it even worth to put the, for it's 12 weeks currently. So like 3 months of time and effort, set aside time from my day. Um, if your current self could speak to the version of you from 3 months ago, and you could tell her about whether this was worth it or not, or what has changed, what would you say to her?
I would tell her, yes, go ahead and actually go through with it and make sure you're staying consistent. And it definitely will help you understand. And also, it's not one of those things that you kind of overcome immediately. It's one of those things that, you have to work through it. It's not gonna stop once the class ends. You have to continuously do it, right? So I would definitely tell myself, yes, go ahead and take the class. Make sure that you are staying consistent within the practices and everything that you're learning, and also make sure that you are continuing what you've learned, and not just stopping at at the end of the class, basically.
Beautiful. If you had to pick one thing that you learned that was like, that just like changed everything for you, what would it be?
There's a lot. So I understood, I believe, was that the stages of depression that kind of helped me understand my day-to-day basis, certain things that I do. So that was a big game changer for me. And then I was able to also do, the somatic practices. I wasn't as consistent in the beginning, but that definitely helped me. My shoulders used to be very tense. So I would say the somatic practices, and then also learning the stages of depression has helped me. Honestly, the whole class has helped me, but if I had to pick, those would be like the two major ones.
Gotcha. So to clarify for anyone who's like wondering, what is she talking about? So one of the coaching calls is entirely dedicated to analyzing and resolving the 5 stages of depression. So identifying what are the qualities of depression that exist, and then how to tackle each of them individually. And it tends to be one of the coaching calls where people are like, whoa, I didn't even realize I was doing this, or and it's very mind-blowing. It really is, because you don't get taught. Like I remember one of the, I don't know if it was in your cohort, or the Monday group, was like, I'd been in therapy for X amount of years and nobody has ever told me this or taught me this. So that's one. And then the somatic practices are really just a series of very intentional, I'm going to mute you, just, I think I'm echoing. A series of very intentional ways of releasing trauma that stores in the body. So while you're talking about like your shoulders used to be very tense, that's where you probably stored your trauma, right? And that's how it works. Our body, the fight or flight response is not just in our head; it happens in our body, and so that fight or flight response gets maintained, and it selects certain areas where it's going to maintain the response most intensely. And as we do those somatic releases, it literally releases the tension, but also it teaches your nervous system how to be safe and helps to disconnect from the memory of trauma that's stored there. So that's something that a lot of people are like, what? That's possible? But subhanAllah, it really is. Yeah, I muted you. I'm so sorry. Just if you, yeah, you can unmute yourself if you want. So then, Urde, as you were going through the program, and it's in a group, what about it being a group, like, would you say? I know a lot of people, that's a big question I get. Oh, it's in a group?
So at first I was actually pretty intimidated. It was intimidating for me just because I didn't want, people just being aware of what I have going on, or just I didn't want to be vocal about my issue. But to be honest, going throughout each of the classes, like when I first started, I was like, nope, I'm not going to be vulnerable. You guys are not going to know what's going on with me. I'm just here to understand how to help myself. But throughout time, I was actually comfortable. And I look at, these individuals as sisters now, because we came a long way from the beginning to the end. And it's actually pretty helpful as of, instead of having like one-on-one sessions, sometimes there might be, other perspectives that are not going to be taken in account. But in this situation, everybody's chiming in, providing, their feedback, and also having discussions on a larger scale. That also makes you think like, okay, well, I actually didn't consider this perspective, right? So I think that helped a lot. And for me, I appreciated it. And I enjoyed everyone that was in my group, because we worked very well together.
Yeah. So a lot of people are intimidated by that group setting, but what really happens, and this always happens, is that you come in with your guard up, and then you realize that this becomes a new safe place for you, a community. These are women who are on the same journey as you. They feel for you. They make dua for you. Everyone who is in that group is hand selected by me. It's not that, anyone who applies gets in. You guys, people, it's technically an interview. So I'm very intentional about who gets placed to make sure that they're going to uplift the group, and rather than, kind of weigh it down, because they still have some work that they need to do before they can enter into a group like it. So yeah, I loved our group too. That was a really enjoyable group, subhanAllah. So alhamdulillah, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Another thing, I'll say this in case, because there are some people who might be wondering, you also don't have to share details of your life. I don't, and I hope you notice, I don't pressure anyone to like tell me what happened or tell us what happened. If it ever, if someone feels comfortable sharing, they're welcome to share. But there are some people who didn't share, right? If you can, like, they just weren't comfortable, and that was okay. They still derive tremendous benefit from that. So if there's someone who's like, no, the kind of trauma I experience is not something I'm comfortable sharing for whatever reason, you don't have to. It's not a necessary requirement in order to succeed in the program or thrive in the program. Beautiful. Orje, the program is focused on body, mind, soul, right? So We focus on nervous system regulation and releasing trauma from the body. We focus on subconscious healing, rewiring of the brain tremendously. And then soul is just intertwined the principles of healing from a faith perspective. Islamic practice is to uphold, uplift our healing, connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and having really strong tawakkul. Those are all elements. The body part is one that is typically just overlooked, or people don't even know about it. So for you coming into a program where there was such a heavy emphasis on the nervous system, what did that do for you? Like, you typically, even if you work with some of the best trained therapists, for example, I'm not a therapist, obviously, they won't mention these things. So how did that make a difference to you?
So on a day-to-day basis, I work on, I'm usually sitting down a lot of the times, and I just feel a lot of tension in my body, and I just never understood, what
Why?
it was. Maybe I'm just like, I just need a massage. I just need to figure something out, but there's
Mhm.
no way that I'm feeling all this tension. But the thing is, once you start actually understanding, where we're holding traumas and how we can release it, is basically like, if you say you're having, just tense shoulders and you just don't understand what it is, you're going to go get a massage, you're going to go work out, and it's still not helping. Once you end up actually doing those somatic exercises, you're going to be able to understand, okay, well, those tensions are not there anymore. It might have moved somewhere else, so let me go ahead and work on
Mhm.
that other area. So you're starting from the top, and then you're going to go down to be able to go ahead and release those traumas, and you're going to understand, like, why you're doing those practices, because you're going to feel light every time you do it.
Mhm.
And so I don't think that people consider, body trauma a thing, because they just think maybe it's because I'm tired, or there's
Mhm.
other factors. But honestly, you paying attention to each part of your body will make a big difference, and making sure that you're addressing those traumas will definitely help you feel better, and also make sure you're not feeling tense throughout your body. And then you're also going to make sure that you're not going to get to that point, right, moving forward.
Exactly. And like the first 4 weeks or so of the program is dedicated to just building that mind body awareness, just learning about the nervous system, just learning about fight or flight response. And like that knowledge is intended to empower you, so you're able to understand, well, if this is happening, it's not happening because I'm stressed or because I need a massage. It's happening because my body's trying to tell me something. And our brain is connected to our body. That's how our body operates. It needs the signals from the brain. So yes, subhanallah, it's something I just really emphasize. And I just had a client today who I was talking to about this, and she was like mad, because she was like, I've seen all of these mental health providers, and I've all of these things that they've done, and nobody has ever talked to me about that, but it makes so much sense. I was like, yeah, because they probably don't know yet. So it really is just a huge difference. So OJ, you said you had told your friends about the program, right?
I have.
Okay. What did you
I
tell
have
them?
I have like two friends, and they all have like different things. We kind of grew up together, so we have
Mm.
similar backgrounds, and they always come and discuss certain issues that they have, and I actually, I'm giving them advice, and they're actually loving the advice that I'm giving them. So I'm like, I'm not the same person that I was maybe like, a few months ago.
Mhm.
So now that you see the way that I'm responding to you and the way that I'm giving you these advice, there's a reason why, I'm giving you these responses in a certain way. And so they're able to see the changes within me. So that's why I'm able to let them know this is the reason why I made these changes. And others are seeking therapy, but the thing is it's not integrated with Islam as well. So I think, that's one of the best things that you could do for yourself. So I definitely encourage everyone and anyone to be able to go ahead and make sure that you're taking the right steps to grow, mentally, making sure you're growing spiritually, which is the main important thing. And without that, I feel like I feel like it would have been a very big challenge for me, because
Mm.
you have to align with everything that you do, in all parts. So for me, this aligned very well with what my vision was for, my healing process. And so
Mm.
that's what I want for them. And that's why I want them to join the class.
Yeah. The funny thing, so I say it's one thing to notice your own progress, but you know something has changed when other people have noticed it. Because what tends to happen is as we're doing the work in our brain is rewiring and our body is our mind body awareness is changing and we're releasing trauma and we're feeling like lighter. Sometimes the day to day you don't notice the shifts, but it's when you look back from day one to day 90 technically, then you're like, whoa, that was a big jump, right? But then other people, they'll see you and they'll be like, what just happened? We've had like clients even in your cohort who are like, yeah, people have seen me at the beginning and at the end, and they're like, what are you doing? Like something changed, right? SubhanAllah. Um, that's beautiful. So, do you have any last words before we close the interview?
Yeah, I just want to say, if you're ever looking to just, work on yourself, grow, and actually take the right steps to, fixing your issues such as trauma and everything else that you might feel you need to address, I really do think this is the best course to take if you're going to make sure you're going to stay consistent. I think this is something that it's very crucial. You have to make sure you're staying consistent and taking the class, and making sure that you're implementing those exercises. And with that being said, I feel like once you get started, you're just gonna see differences as as you go. But I feel like this is one of the best things you could do, the best investment, I would say. And yeah, Henna would be the best coach that you could have.
Oh, thank you. They're gonna think I paid you to say that.
No, definitely not.
Barakallah feek. Well, it was so nice having you in the program, and you brought such a different vibe to the program, a good sense of humor, a good sense of just like vulnerability, and just it was very clear that you were someone who was invested in doing your own work, and everyone else benefited from that as well. Right?
Yeah, for sure. I went from not crying to crying every class. So yeah.
But that was part of the safety. Your nervous system wasn't going to allow you to cry. It wasn't going to block that. You were kind of in that state of freezing. Eventually, when you're able to feel safe enough to do that, that's good because that's a signal. That's a signal that you release trauma and you're healing. It's really
Well, that's good to hear.
good, inshallah. Well, Jazakallah khair. I'm going to end the recording now. And for anyone who is interested in getting to know more about the Seeking Wholeness Trauma Group Coaching Program, you can go to the link in the description of this video, and you will see everything that's included in the program, as well as if there are any discovery calls that are open to book, and you can join the waiting list if not. Assalamu alaikum.
Oh my God.